Imagine this. You're sitting around with a bunch of friends and someone suggests that you order a pizza. Immediately, everyone agrees that pizza is a great idea. But just as quickly, there's a discussion over how exactly the pizza should be. Should it be thick or thin crust? What toppings should go on it? Is pineapple pizza sent from heaven or the worst atrocity imaginable? It's the same way with poverty. When it comes up, people generally agree it's a bad thing and that there should be less of it. But just as quickly, there's a disagreement about what exactly poverty is and how we should go about measuring it. Our goal today is to help you understand the different ways people think about poverty and offer a unique approach that we think best reflects human dignity. So, what is poverty, and how should we measure it? These are big questions that can be confusing. Start by trying to imagine what you think of when you think of the word poverty. Maybe you think of a homeless man on the side of the road with a cardboard sign and children with bellies swollen from hunger. Does money come to mind? Maybe the phrase, not enough? If this is how you're thinking, you're in the majority. According to Robert Rector, a poverty analyst with the Heritage Foundation, most Americans think of poverty as extreme material deprivation. We can debate whether this general idea is a good definition. We propose that poverty is the deficit of combined capabilities, which can sometimes also include income lowness. We are going to measure this by using a combination of the SVM and combined capability failures. We'll get into this more in a bit.
Let's break this down. There are two main categories of poverty definition put forward by experts: deprivation or central capabilities failure. The first is deprivation. This view basically says, you are poor if you can't meet your basic needs. This position is taken by scholar Robert Rector. Rector believes that poverty can be defined as failure to meet needs like food, clothing, shelter, and utilities, abbreviated FCSU. This view emphasizes not being able to meet your basic needs because of income lowness. He points out in much of his work that most people in the Census Bureau defines as poor aren't actually experiencing extreme material deprivation. He uses this to talk about why welfare spending should be decreased, but we don't have to worry about that. We're just concerned with whether this definition is accurate. While Rector makes a good point that material goods matter, this definition is insufficient. We can't just care about whether people can meet their basic needs and survive, because if this were the case, there would be no people in poverty. They would all be dead. Thus, we must care about something more than just people's ability to acquire their basic needs. This is what the next two main definitions try to address. The second definition is central capabilities failure, which is a complicated name but is pretty simple to understand. Two philosophers who center on this work are Amartya Sen and Martha Nussbaum. They say that poverty is the inability to achieve some basic set of capabilities. To understand capabilities, we need to understand functionings. Functionings are the various things a person manages to do or be in leading a life. Capabilities are a broader idea. They are the things that you have the actual possibility of doing or being in life. So, functionings are what you actually do out of your capabilities, which is what you have the real possibility of doing.
So, back to central capabilities failure. Remember, this definition says that you are in poverty if you don't have a certain set of capabilities. It's a more complete definition because it considers the why of poverty analysis. To Sen and Nussbaum, and to us, understanding poverty matters because people matter. Humans have intrinsic dignity. And Nussbaum and Sen say you need certain capabilities in order for people to respect your dignity. These could involve basic needs, like having the right to life or the ability to be nourished. Or it could be more complex things, like having access to leisure time or education. Some people argue that this definition isn't a good one because it would be complicated to try to measure people's capability. We'll discuss later whether we think this is a valid objection. So, which one is right? We think it's a little bit of both. Let's go back to our pizza example.
To repeat our thesis, poverty is always defined as a deficit of combined capabilities, which can sometimes also include income lowness. To explain this, we thought of a pizza. When a family orders pizza, one person may want a pepperoni pizza and another one may want a pepperoni and sausage pizza. The way they would usually compromise and order is this: one large pizza, all pepperoni, part sausage. That is how we are looking at poverty. All combined capabilities deficit, part income deficit. So let's take a look at combined capabilities deficit as pepperoni and income deficit as sausage. And voila, the poverty pizza. Makes sense, right? Maybe not. Let's take it further. In thinking about poverty, we usually think of two deficits that could be the cause of it: combined capabilities deficit and income deficit. We decided that having a deficit of combined capabilities on its own is a definition of poverty, and combined capabilities deficit along with income deficit is another explanation for poverty. What we have not included in our definition, however, is purely the lack of income. For most examples we could come up with, having the combined capabilities needed to live with what we consider a life of dignity in the United States would not place you in poverty. The only way one could have combined capabilities but have an income deficit would be a conscious or even subconscious choice to live without a reasonable income. For example, a monk who chose to take a vow of poverty is not classified in our definition of poor, and neither is someone who chose the life of an artist or a street musician. They are bound to struggle. So, that is our reasoning for this pizza, which has all combined capabilities, or pepperoni, and part income deficit, or sausage. All you can see is that instead of a super confusing diagram, we made pizza instead. Now that we have a good idea what poverty is made of, let's figure out how to measure it.
Today, the United States measures poverty by the OPM, or Official Poverty Measurement. The OPM measures resources by gross annual pre-tax income, not including government handouts, and the threshold measures the thrifty food basket multiplied by 3. The thrifty food basket is designed for temporary or emergency use when funds are low, and is multiplied by 3 to adjust for additional resources. The OPM adjusts for family composition and the Consumer Price Index, including inflation. However, problems with the OPM include not adjusting for non-traditional cohabitation, geographic differences, and the cost of having a job. As well, it does not encompass a person's standard of living. Another way to measure poverty is the Supplemental Poverty Measure. The SPM fixes some problems with the OPM by including government benefits, like food stamps and housing subsidies, while subtracting non-discretionary expenses, including taxes, work expenses, and medical out-of-pocket expenses. The threshold includes the 33rd percentile for households' food, clothing, shelter, and utilities, and multiplies this by 1.2 to adjust for inflation. It adjusts for geographic differences in living. Disadvantage of the SPM is that it alters the amount of people considered to be in poverty. For instance, it lowers the child poverty rates, which could cause an underestimation of the amount of financial help children need. Our definition of poverty is always the deficit of combined capabilities, while sometimes also including income lowness. We are measuring our definition of poverty by incorporating parts of the SPM and the central capabilities failure. We measure income wellness similar to the SPM's approach by including government benefits, including food stamps and housing subsidies, while subtracting non-discretionary expenses, including taxes, work expenses, and medical out-of-pocket expenses from income. Additionally, we are measuring people's combined capabilities by looking at data such as health records, life expectancy rates, disease rates, maternal and infant mortality rates, sexual assault rates, crime rates, literacy rates, and school test scores. People who possess these combined capabilities will be more likely to have their dignity respected.
Measure seems a little complicated, doesn't it? Some people might use that as a reason to say it isn't a good measure. The SPM changes a good amount from the OPM, and doing a transition like this one is very difficult, and then we're adding in capabilities. But we disagree. Let's remember why we're doing this. We care about defining and measuring poverty because we care about people and their dignity being respected. If we really care about people, we should do what is necessary to make sure they are respected. Something being hard isn't a good reason not to do it. Hard isn't bad or wrong, it's just hard. And we can do this hard thing because we care about respecting dignity and because people matter.